stress and diabetes have this very close interrelation.
Right.
If your stress levels are high, it causes more inflammation in the body, which makes your diabetes worse. And when your sugars are high, it actually causes more stress. If you're struggling with obesity or overweight, that's one of the risk factors that can contribute to diabetes. People around those that are living with diabetes are often very judgmental. So they stigmatize these individuals living with diabetes. And you know how they say that words can hurt more than swords and sticks? That's what happens. A lot of people are ostracized just due to the fact that they have diabetes.
Hey everyone, welcome to Darpan Chat Central. The number is staggering. Near 12 million Canadians are living with diabetes or pre-diabetes, and an overwhelming majority will or have been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Now, within the South Asian diaspora, when it comes to the South Asian segment possibly getting diabetes, the likelihood 8 times more compared to other races. According to a Canadian report that's come out, the report is now saying that those with type 2 diabetes certainly don't appreciate unsolicited advice. Now, to kind of break this down for me, I am joined by Surrey-based endocrinologist, Dr. Akshay Jain. Hi, Dr. Jain. How are you?
Hi, Ish. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Thank you.
So before we get into the findings of the report and the impact of diabetes within the South Asian population and beyond, tell me a little bit about what an endocrinologist does.
Yeah, great question. So endocrinology is that part of medicine that deals with different hormones. And diabetes is a condition in which hormones, particularly insulin, is dysfunctional. Similarly, endocrinology also deals with obesity, thyroid diseases, osteoporosis, male hormones, female hormones, so a whole slew of different things.
All right. So now break down the findings of this particular report for me.
Yeah. So basically what they did was they looked at a whole bunch of people living with type 2 diabetes, and they tried to understand the psyche of these individuals and how much of an impact living with diabetes is making to these individuals. In particular, they wanted to look at how stressful living with diabetes is, or if they're feeling overwhelmed or not. And interestingly, it was seen that a majority of people living with diabetes feel a whole gamut of emotions when it comes to living with diabetes. So 3/4 of them felt extremely overwhelmed. Stress levels related to diabetes were very high. When it comes to a chronic condition like diabetes, you have to think of so many things. You know, the food that's in front of you, you have to think whether it's right for you or not. The amount that you're having, is that enough or is it too much? You have to think about your activity levels. You have to think about your sleep. Also, diabetes is not a cheap condition to manage. Medications are very expensive. So all of that takes a toll on the individuals. But perhaps the most staggering thing that was seen in this report was the fact that they discovered that people around those that are living with diabetes are often very judgmental. So they stigmatize these individuals living with diabetes. And you know how they say that words can hurt more than swords and sticks? That's what happens. A lot of people are ostracized just due to the fact that they have diabetes.
So what can be done in terms of minimizing that stigma, one, and how can we manage the mental and emotional impact that diabetes has on an individual?
Great question. So first and foremost, it's important to understand that just because somebody got type 2 diabetes, it doesn't mean that it's their fault. There's a whole bunch of different reasons why people get type 2 diabetes. Genetics play a very important role. As you pointed out, South Asians have a 8 times higher risk of getting diabetes. So if somebody in your family has diabetes, that's probably one of the reasons you got it. Sometimes when we gain weight, that increases the risk of diabetes. So understanding that it's not that person's fault is very important. Also, being very accepting of their condition is important. So in this survey, they asked people, how would you feel if people were more receptive and understanding of their condition? And the results were very staggering. Everyone felt that if there's positive reinforcement, it makes a big difference. You know, simple things like if someone's eating and if somebody walks by and says, oh, you shouldn't be eating that much, you've got diabetes.
Right.
That hurts.
Yes.
So understanding that is very important, and also just making offhand comments like, oh, you've got diabetes, you should be walking a little bit more, or you should know better than this. All those things are not really the correct way of talking to people. So all of that makes a difference. To the second part of your question about managing stress levels, so it's very interesting. Stress and diabetes have this very close interrelation.
Right.
If your stress levels are high, it causes more inflammation in the body, which makes your diabetes worse. And when your sugars are high, it actually causes more stress. So at a very bare minimum, it's important to try to mitigate the stress that people are living with diabetes. Also, for those of your listeners who are healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, or any other healthcare professional, this study found that a lot of times healthcare professionals were also very demeaning towards people living with diabetes.
Right.
So, even though they might mean the best for their patients, it's important that the words that you choose and you show sympathy rather than apathy when it comes to managing this.
That's so important. So what in particular have you noticed in terms of the role of culture when it comes to diabetes, and specifically the South Asian population?
Yeah. So, a lot of times we feel that just because we eat home-cooked meals, it is healthy.
Right.
But that's not true. Our diet, there's an integral role of carbohydrates in our diet. So whether we have rotis or paratha, or if we have rice, all of these things have a high amount of carbohydrates. And in people living with diabetes, the carbohydrates can make the sugars go up. Secondarily, as part of our diet, we have very little protein in our diet. Even the vegetables and the dal that we cook is often fried, and that reduces the nutrition of those things. So it's very important to look at it from a nutritional aspect. The other thing is our South Asian diaspora, especially here in Canada, many of them are skilled workers, so we have desk jobs.
Correct.
Our ancestors would be working in the farms and the fields, and they would be physically active. And now we're not that active. We're sitting under fluorescent lights and working. And because of that, when our physical activity levels are low, our risk of getting diabetes is higher. Similarly, if we're not sleeping enough, if our stress levels are high, all of that can contribute to diabetes. So, medications and all that stuff is secondary. Just focusing on your lifestyle can make a big difference.
Right. Absolutely. So what's a message you'd like to share with the South Asian community? Just observations you've made as a doctor, and any helpful tips beyond what you've already mentioned in terms of lifestyle that you can provide.
Absolutely. So it's important to understand what your overall risk is. So if somebody in your family has diabetes, then it's important that you get screened for type 2 diabetes after age 30. If there's other risk factors that are prevalent, say for instance, if you're struggling with obesity or overweight, that's one of the risk factors that could contribute to diabetes. Perhaps one of the worst things that you can do is indulge in cigarette smoking, because that increases a lot of inflammation in the body. So apart from heart disease and lung disease, it actually also increases the risk of developing diabetes. A lot of people with diabetes don't realize that with diabetes, somebody may also have high blood pressure and high cholesterol. So these things can get missed. So it's important to get checked for that as well. And the whole idea is that diabetes does not need to be a death sentence. People with diabetes can live a very long, healthy life if they are able to control the blood sugars, their blood pressure and cholesterol. So medications is one aspect, but lifestyle modification is perhaps the most crucial. And a good combination of these, living a healthy life, can help you and those in your family, because when you start eating healthy and live a healthy lifestyle, your kids will start exercising, people around you will do that. So it reduces their risk as well. So I think it's holistic. It takes a village and you get healthier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a holistic approach. There's no doubt. Dr. Jain, thank you so much for taking your valuable time to come and speak with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.